Sports Arena, powered by DSC Hawaii on the Hawaii Pacific University campus at Aloha Tower Marketplace. Here's your host, Hawaii Pacific University's Vice President and Chief Marketing Communications Officer, Jeffrey Rich.
Aloha, Sharks Nation. We are back live this Thursday morning, broadcasting from the beautiful campus of Hawaii Pacific University here at Aloha Tower Marketplace. We broadcast every Thursday morning from HPU's Esports Arena, of course powered by DSC Hawaii. I am your host, Jeff Rich, and today we will be talking baseball with HPU's head baseball coach and a couple of our amazing players. Heading into his third season here at the helm, we've got head coach Dane Fujinaka and a couple of awesome players. Daniel Johnson, we've had on the show before. He's a senior catcher hailing from Gilbert, Arizona. And a newcomer to our show, Vicente Molina, one of the team's captains. Vicente is a graduate student and a right-handed pitcher for the Sharks, hailing from South San Francisco. But before we formally introduce our guests and get rolling with a little conversation about baseball, as always, let's say hello to our in-studio cohorts here. Mr. Paul Breck, of course, working the soundboard, and our sports information director here at HPU, Mr. Marcus DeWall. Gentlemen, welcome. Happy Thursday, and how was the week?
I had to remember which one was my input over here. And week's been good so far. A really fun day this past Tuesday. Big pair of basketball games for HPU against Azusa Pacific. Had over 400 screaming elementary schoolers there. That was a ton of fun. Got to call that actually on these Hawaii Sports Radio Network waves, and you can actually check that out. I posted a couple of recaps today on our website, tweeted them out as well, that have the entire replay there, so you can take in some of the action. Go on to HPU's socials as well. Have so many great videos and pictures of the day, and I'm really excited. I've been looking forward to today. Obviously, it's always a good time whenever Coach Dane comes into the studio or whatever we are using as the studio that day. And then obviously Daniel, you said it before, he's a veteran of this. I was excited when you mentioned that he was coming on in. And then a new face in Vicente, where it's, man, we got a lot to learn. And then obviously my main man, Marcus, who's always here. So excited for today. It's been a fun week so far, and only going to get better.
Yes, for sure. And, Marcus, it's appropriate that we've got baseball in studio today, because for some reason it feels very springish today. And when I think of spring and fresh starts, I think of baseball and getting rolling in a new season. And of course, here in Hawaii, it's perpetual summer, so it's hard to just have a distinction between, spring and summer. But it kind of feels springy today. I don't know. Do you feel it?
Yeah, my ears are still ringing from Tuesday. I mean, when you're in a gym full of like 400 plus elementary school students, it was very, very loud, and you could tell like the APU grab, but you could tell those APU guys were feeling the pressure from the little kids. I mean, I think they shot like 3 for 25 to open the game.
Wow!
And so it was like Paul wrote, it was a playoff atmosphere there. The kids got really into it. If you look at those like little recap videos, they're throwing up the three every time like, Charlie would hit a three or something like that. So. It was such a fun and great atmosphere, and just a testament to Jesse and his team for what they do for the community. Like just earlier last week, they were at Manoa Elementary doing a free clinic, and so you invest into the community, they invest right back into it. And so it was a really fun time for everybody.
And of course, you're talking a little bit about the helmet game on Saturday.
Yeah, just nonstop, just super proud of like all that men's program has done with the CAMS helmets and just spend their time with those elementary school kids.
Very nice, very nice. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about what's been happening around campus, and of course, I look forward a little bit later in the show at what's coming up in HPU sports. But hey, let's get things rolling with our in-studio guest from the baseball team here. Returning for I don't know how many times you've been on the show now, Dane.
Few times,
yeah. But you always bring a lot of interesting insight, and we're excited to talk a little bit about how the season's looking this year. You guys are gearing up for the opener. I think it's February 1st, as I said, Cal State LA. Mm-hmm. How's the team looking this year? What's the feeling like?
Yeah, I'm really excited. We have Cal State East Bay, Cal State LA that we play a couple times next weekend, starting on Thursday. But yeah, I mean it's a smaller group this year. I would say a little bit more tight knit, older group. Really good core of leaders and captains. I'm excited to see kind of the team chemistry play out throughout the season, and obviously go through the ups and downs, and I think the group that we have this year is going to be able to hold it together, and we talked about not going through the highs and the lows and being able to kind of mediate that, and I think this is the group that's going to be able to do that.
Nice. Well, the 2023 season was marked by your best conference finish since 2016. You tied for 6th place with a 14-17 conference record. And you had one of the top offenses in the conference, leading the conference in triples and stolen bases. You guys were 2nd in batting average in the Pac West, 3rd in runs per game. So you had a pretty potent offense last year. How's the offense looking? Vicente, you're a pitcher. Interested to hear how things are looking from the pitching side of things, and if you feel the rotation strong. But Dane, what do you see as the strengths and weaknesses of the team heading into the season?
Yeah, I think the offense is the last couple of years. It's been the strength. We have the main guys returning: TJ, Daniel, Ian, Wolski, Chase, Nick Gio, 2-time All-Conference guy, Noah Hata in center field. Kota Suzuki was the newcomer of the year in our conference. So the core guys came back, which is huge. And then I think we have a really good couple new guys, Skylar Agnew, Caleb Milliken, who are going to be able to contribute right away. So I would say that's definitely going to be a strength again this year. And as well as I think, or we improved last year, but at the same time, I do think that we underachieved a little bit. I think our guys will say that they felt that they underachieved last year, and which is exciting because I think we have the main guys back, and we added to it. So I think this year will be even better.
Wow. Well, it's always positive, I guess, if you feel like there's if the team is feeling boy, we could have done better last year. We got room for improvement. It's a good, healthy attitude coming in. Vicente, you're coming in as a veteran pitcher. You're a grad student. You pitched in some big postseason games when you were at Laverne. You're categorized or portrayed, I should say, as a leader on the field, and one of the players that really sets an example with a strong, high character. What do you see as the exciting things to look forward to? How are you feeling about the team this year? Tell us a bit about what you're thinking.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this upcoming year. I think as a new guy coming in, I was excited to get to know everyone and build relationships. And like Coach Dane said, we have a really tight-knit group right now, and I'm really excited to compete every day. I think game days we have so many games on the schedule, and baseball, compared to all the other sports, we play the most games. And I think game days are great opportunities to build on what we've been working on, and which is our relationships, our skills, our game plan. Practices are the hard days. They're supposed to be the hard, agonizing days. And when it comes to game day, it's the fun day where we just let it all show out. And I think what you're going to see when we're on the field is our trust and belief in one another. And we're gonna put in that work to put a winning product out there.
Do you feel like are you guys equally strong with your starting pitching and relief? Is there a strength on the staff that you feel you can really lean on this year, or is it just strong from top to bottom, from start to end?
I think we're deep as a staff. I mean, Daniel and Dane can speak to it. Dane's our pitching coach. Daniel's a catcher. So we're around each other a whole lot. I think we have a good blend of different skill sets for each pitcher. We have guys who can, like me, I sink the ball. We have guys who can run it up with high velo like Scott and Landon. And then we have guys who have experience, who've been here, done that. And, they know what Dane's going to call, and they anticipate what's going to be going on, and they just bring it. So I'm excited.
Very nice. Well, hey, we want to come back here. We're going to take a quick break, and then Daniel, I want to bring you into the conversation. Talk a little bit. We've had some commiseration over our experiences as catchers, but let's hold for a second. We're going to take a quick commercial break. You're listening to Sharks Weekly. I'm your host, Jeff Rich, and we will be right back.
You're listening to Sharks Weekly on the Hawaii Sports Radio Networks, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
And we are back, and just a reminder, you can catch all our episodes of Sharks Weekly by visiting the Hawaii Sports Radio Network and checking out the Sharks Weekly page, and there we have loaded up all of our prior conversations, and you can also see a link to our YouTube live stream and see what's happening in studio while we're doing our show. But let's get back into the conversation with HPU men's baseball. Daniel, so welcome back. As we had some great conversations before. I just want to recap a little bit. You had an amazing season last year. You appeared in 22 games, starting 19 from behind the plate. You led all catchers in numbers of runners caught. You threw out, 10 last year?
Something like that, yeah.
That's pretty strong. Boy, produced 4 multi-hit games and 2 multi-RBI games. Recorded your best offensive performance against the Academy of Art, finding 2 hits and played in 2 RBI, scoring 2 runs yourself. And you finished the season with a .988 fielding percentage and went 5 for 6 in stolen base attempts yourself. That's a pretty strong season.
I'm a little speed demon out there.
Well, congratulations, man.
Thank you.
You don't see a lot of catchers stealing bases.
Right. I think it's a sneaky, I think Dane told me in the fall last year, he goes, you're going to have quite a few stolen bases this year. I kind of laughed. And then I think it was second game, I got a hit, and I'm looking at him, and he gives me the steal sign. And I looked over at our first base coach, Zabs. I'm like, did he just give me the steal sign? Zab's like, no, I don't think so. And I was like, no, I think he did. And then I stole, and then Dane pulls me out to the side. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I didn't give you the sign. I was like, oh.
What was it, a miscue on the sign, or what? What was it, a little scratch to the nose that was real?
I was just too excited. It was my first game at a university in a few years, and I was just amped to be out there. I got my hit. I'm like looking at the dugout. I'm like, yeah. Did I just get the steal sign? Oh, I better go. And
wow.
Turns out, good thing I was safe, because if I wasn't, that would have been.
All right, so on the 6 attempts you had, did you go on your own on all of them then?
No.
So you didn't give them this?
A lot of them were designed, I think, delay steals or first and third steals. And then the one that I did get caught on, I was on second, and I was trying to get to third, and it was really, really dumb mistake, because we were already up 7 runs, and it wasn't even a design steal. I just got backpicked at second. I just went to third, and then I got thrown out at third.
Caught the rundown?
Yeah, I got thrown out at third. And yeah, that was not fun for me going into the dugout. But yeah, good thing we were up 7 runs. So
wow.
Yeah.
Well, Dane, it's good that you have confidence in Daniel, and we'll give him that go sign now and then. I imagine, as I said earlier, you probably don't have a lot of catchers in your career that you feel a lot of confidence given the green light too.
Well, yeah, it's one of those where he doesn't run well, and but we lead the league in stolen bases. We have the last 2 years, and my philosophy, I guess, is we're just going to play fast, and we're going to put pressure on defenses, regardless. 1 through 9, we're gonna run. But specifically in Daniel's case, and a lot of catchers, is that because they're known as catchers that don't run, they kind of bring that element of surprise to the table. So, like you said, guys don't pay attention at him when he's on second base, so it allows him to get good jumps. So, and he does. He gets really good jumps, which allows him to make up for that lack of speed. So, I think there's ways to find extra bases, and regardless of if you have the raw speed or not.
Yeah, and I think a big part of our offense too is creating chaos, and we want to put all the pressure on them. And I think with our practice designs and how we train, we're given that opportunity to trust ourselves and trust the ability to create that chaos on the bases.
That's a good philosophy. It's a little chaos, controlled chaos is not a bad thing. Vicente, you're a right-handed pitcher. Do you have a philosophy and holding the runner close? How do you approach it when you are fearful that somebody's going to take off on you?
Well, for me, my game plan going in, say we got an upcoming series, I always check the opposing rosters, see who the stolen base leaders are. With the new year, you look back at okay, who led the team in stolen bases last year, who would be a threat to go, and then you also think about the game situation, depending on how close the score is, what the count is. Say there's 2 outs, run on first, that guy's probably trying to get a steal to get in scoring position so that they can, knock him in. So as a pitcher, you just got to vary your looks and your holds and your timing, and then maybe mix in a pick here and there just to keep him honest.
Yep.
And then give the catchers like Danjo an honest shot of throwing him out. And if anything, our catchers have really good arms. So as pitchers, we know as long as we're quick to the plate, our catcher is more than likely going to take care of the job.
Now, do you guys have a lot of communication about what's happening with the runner?
I think we have a lot of communication in general, but I think we're very cautious of who we think is going to be a guy that's going to try to take the extra base. And I think the communication between pitchers and catchers, pitchers and middle infielders is phenomenal with that stuff. Yeah.
What's your strongest pitch? And Daniel, how do you approach calling the game when you've got Vicente on the mound?
Well, I'd say my strongest pitch is I have like a 2-seam sinker, and it moves a whole lot in the zone, gets a lot of weak contact and ground balls.
Nice.
Yeah, and luckily for me, I don't have to call the game. Dane takes control of that, takes a little bit more pressure off of me. And Vicente's fastball is one that when I'm in the batter's box, I do not want to see it. But when I'm catching it, it's
what's it clocked at?
Super fun.
It's at a whopping 82, 83 miles per hour, but a whole lot of movement.
It feels like a lot faster than that.
So it's got a little deception on it. So Dane, so you're calling. Is that a little unusual to have a coach calling pitches versus the catcher?
Not at the college level. College level, I would say there are programs that allow their catchers to call the game, but so we have what's called pitch comms, which is, I'm sure you've seen it, where the players look at their wrist. It looks like a watch.
Okay.
So that sign comes from the dugout and gets transmitted to our shortstop, second base, pitcher, and catcher. So what that does is it takes away any sign stealing that may be going on, because as a manager, you're always worried about the other team stealing signs.
Yep.
Or when I tipped pitches for the entire season. I had no idea until one of the opponents told me, "Hey, you're giving away signs, and you're letting everybody know it's coming just by the way I was setting up." So I'm always watching that. But this is just a really simple way of not even that being in the picture. So, and then also with the shortstop, second base, pitcher, catcher all being on the same page, the communication is just a little bit better. They still have the ability to shake off, and if the pitcher or catcher doesn't want to throw a certain pitch, they kind of just shake their head and then they go to a traditional sign system.
Now, but is that official equipment that every team has? So it's kind of like the headset in other sports, or having a broadcast
it's optional.
To a football team?
It's newer, so it's been I think allowed for the last couple of years, but it's expensive, so not every team has it.
Okay.
But we're really fortunate to have that. Last year we had the catcher had the earpiece in, but he still had to put down the sign. So this year we went straight to the watch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is also nice for a catcher. For like me who caught night games last year, pitchers, sometimes it's hard for them to see the signs.
Yep.
So there'd be a lot of cross-ups, which is my nightmare as a catcher. So now this takes the whole cross-up situation out of that.
Wow. Well, you learn something new every single day. And honestly, I had no idea that baseball had gone that high tech. And it's interesting that unlike other sports where stealing plays, signals, football for example, and the whole thing that the Patriots were doing, not good, not cool. But in terms of baseball, sign stealing, it's kind of a historic part of the game and something that is accepted. And so it's interesting that technology is sort of changing the game in that respect. I wonder if traditionalists would not feel good about bringing that kind of tech into the game.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of you play devil's advocate for a while, but I think it's just the safest bet. It's never. I mean, I was the same way. I used to tip a lot of pitches too as a catcher, and it's never a good feeling when someone comes up to you like, "Hey, man, we had your signs the whole game." Yeah. I'm sure as a pitcher too, if you're tipping pitches, just not a good feeling. You never want to hear that. So, and this just takes that all out of it, takes that pressure, whatever it is, just out of it. So it's nice.
Yeah, and it changes the dynamics a little bit. I remember, when I was catching, sometimes, you had a pitcher that wanted to call it himself and would shake off your signs and always go with what he wanted. Sometimes I had a pitcher that didn't, relied on me to call it the whole time, and now it's the coach that's calling the game. How does that change your strategy and your philosophy when you have that kind of control over what pitches are coming in each time?
So another reason why we call the pitches from the dugout is we have reports, like in-depth, pitch reports of how we should be pitching each guy. So we obviously don't expect every player or every pitcher and catcher to know the roster, the opposing roster top to bottom. So that's another huge reason why we do it from the dugout. But like I said, I think as the series goes on, like the catchers especially are, watching the game, watching the hitters. The pitchers in the dugout should be watching the game, right? So I think we start to learn and adjust our plans, and then by the end of it, it's like Vicente said earlier, it's they know what's going to be put down or what's going to show up on their watch before I even put the button in, and I think that's what we're striving for from a overall plan strategy standpoint, is to be on one page. But I think what that comes down to is the communication.
Wow. Well, like I said, you learn something new every day, and that is something I had no idea was happening out there. So good to know. So, what else is happening with the team? Are you guys, you mentioned you've got a lot of strong players coming back. You've got strength on the offense and pitching and defense. How's the team chemistry and camaraderie developing?
Yeah, it's always fun. So last year was my first year. And we went through the fall, went through the spring, and I really liked that group of guys, and I was sad to see some guys leave. And then coming in, I was kind of like, didn't know who we were getting, what kind of guys we were getting, and it was fun to see, like, within the first 2 weeks that I was like, wow, this team is a huge upgrade. Like, with our pitching staff, bringing in some infielders, some outfielders, and then grinding throughout the whole fall, just playing each other over and over. Like, you got to see the competition level rising. Everyone wanted to be there, everyone wanted to get better, and then outside of baseball, everyone hanging out with each other almost every single day. And yeah, I'm super excited to see how it's going to play out against another team. But yeah.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you got all the intangibles working, along with strength on the team at every position and strong pitching. So should be an exciting season. Hey, we are going to take another quick commercial break. You are listening to Sharks Weekly. I'm your host, Jeff Rich. We're talking HPU baseball today, and we will be right back.
You're listening to Sharks Weekly on the Hawaii Sports Radio Networks, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
And we are back. We are live in studio at the Esports Arena, powered by DSE Hawaii. And I want to call out our amazing sponsors. Many, many thanks to Equus. The Equus is Waikiki's best lifestyle boutique hotel. Enjoy big savings and year-round activities in a prime location. Check out Equus. You are also listening to Sharks Weekly, which is brought to you by the Hula Grill. Take in a fiery sunset while savoring the vibrant flavors of the island. Hula Grill. Many, many thanks to our wonderful sponsors. But hey, let's jump in to HPU Sports. And as always, in studio with us today is Mr. Marcus DeWall, HPU Sports Information Director. Marcus makes the rounds and checks out what's happening with all the different teams. Gives us a little update. So Marcus, how did things look the last week? What caught your eye?
Well, first off, happy birthday to our assistant AD, Eli Shutmer.
Happy birthday, Eli.
I think out of all the assistant ADs of compliance, he's by far the most athletic. I encourage you to look up his huddle mixtape in college. He's absolute animal at linebacker. But yeah, so this past weekend, or no, it's not this past week, on Tuesday. Feels like a weekend.
Week goes by quick.
Yeah, week goes by quick. But we played APU at home at the Shark Tank. Our women's team, put up a good fight. We're actually up 3 at halftime against APU, who is nationally ranked coming in. Just didn't pan out the way we wanted to at the end, but great effort and great fight. And I think they've just done a good job in wins and in losses of just competing, despite all the turmoil they've had this year. Mm-hmm. And then for men's basketball, they put on a show in front of the kids, and APU, managed to fight their way back in it, but they every game for that team, someone manages to step up. And so, Diggy, I think he had like 2 points like going into like the final 3 minutes, and then all of a sudden he was just the most unstoppable player on the court. He's hitting threes or hitting like fadeaway layups, and you're just like, what? How? And so, but
he was energized. He was one of our guests last Thursday, and you could just tell he was ready to go.
Yeah, and so today we got a pair of home games again with Point Loma, and so our women's game is going to be up against fairly, I think they're a middle of the pack team for Point Loma. They're 9-9 this year, and so it'll be a good get right game for the women's team. And then for the men's game, like any game can be a rivalry game if you try hard enough. And so Patrick Frost, our associate head coach, is former staff with Point Loma, and so if you're familiar with Point Loma basketball, just the past 5 years, they've been causing headaches for no matter what school I've been at. You can have a good year, and then you just go to Point Loma and just you get shot back to earth. And so,
are they always strong, or they just the last couple of years they've been really kicking it up another notch?
Yeah, so during his 3 years there, they were 41-10 in conference play.
Okay,
and so
that's just pretty strong.
Yeah, pretty strong. Yeah, yeah. You always see them on the schedule, and you're twiddling your thumbs like, okay, and so, but it's gonna be a good game tonight. Two of the best teams in the conference. I feel like people are starting to give our men's team the respect they deserve as one of the better teams in the conference, and they deserve it. Charlie, 9 consecutive games with double-digit points, and that's without Matt. These past 6 games, I believe he's missed, and so it's been really amazing to see. They've gone through so much adversity that a team could possibly go through during the season, but they're I think it just made them stronger, and it just
really coming together, feeling better. Of course, one of the players had a death in the family, but they kind of rallied around that, it sounds like, and really helped support each other.
And that's no surprise. I feel like the culture they build there is something that can withstand like horrible like tragedies like that. And so I feel like those guys are like really just bought in into the philosophy that Jesse preaches there, but also just bought into each other as people. And so really proud of just like the players they are, but also the people they are. And so really cool team to root for. Well,
as we've got baseball in studio today, and thanks to Dane, we've got a really strong program here and a good culture that's developed. Men's and women's basketball, same strong culture, strong teams. I know, and for our listeners too, just get this on your calendar as well, but mark the date, February 10th, we've got homecoming. Both the men's and women's basketball teams will be in action at the Shark Tank. Come check it out for HPU's annual homecoming event, and you can catch the exhibition game at halftime. You're going to watch faculty and staff go at it with a little bit of basketball exhibition. I myself will be on the court that day, unfortunately, and I am just hoping to God I don't, pop a hammy or tear my Achilles. Something like that is going to happen one of these days. I
just got to put it off as long as you can. No, now, Jeff, you bring up culture, and that's something I want to jump in. And Dane, you gave a talk during a USA Baseball clinic just a few weeks ago, and that was a big part of how you're building the foundation of the Sharks. And you've had a lot of really cool and worthwhile experiences in your coaching career, at least from my seat. Where do you draw most from when it comes to what you've tried to build in terms of culture here at HPU? And then perhaps the players can step in, and maybe you guys can talk a little bit about what you have been drawn most to about the culture, or what you enjoy most about the foundation of your guys' team.
Yeah, I think I look back to my time at Mid-Pac as a player. And the work ethic that I try to preach to these guys comes from that program. Really, that's what was ingrained in me at that young age. And then when I got to Sacramento State, I think it was the pitching and defense philosophy. When I got to Menlo, it was about the relationships. I played for a really good head coach that was a player's coach that valued the relationships. So I think that is what I've tried to instill with these guys. And then when I was with the Blue Jays in the Dominican Republic, I saw a lot of those kids obviously not have a lot, to work with. And very similar to HPU, we don't have the nice $1 million facility like a lot of other places do. So I think, my philosophy from that is being able to do more with less. And if you want to be successful, no matter where you're at, like, you've got to start off at the bottom and be able to do more with less, whether that's here or in your next job, right? So that's kind of what I pulled from each program, and I think try to ingrain that in these guys. But yeah, I'd like to hear what they have to say.
First off, like Dan said, we're a hardworking group. Before all else, we have to put in the work, and we do that daily. We're up early in the weight room with Skyler Yamamoto, and he pushes us hard. We're all pushing one another. And then we get to Kehi. One of our practice shirts says Kehi Built. We say it around here. It's on the Instagram, and that's just wherever we are, we can get and put in the work no matter what's going on. And yeah, we don't have the nicest facility, but we have a hell of a coaching staff. We have a hell of a mindset, and we have a whole lot of good equipment that we can use at our disposal. So as long as, we step into the yard and we have the mindset, all right, we're going to get better today, which we always do. We're really maximizing our potential, and we're trying to do that day in and day out here.
Yeah, and beautiful weather all year round.
That sure helps.
Yeah, and I think Vicente texted me before he was even stepped foot on campus, and he was asking me, like, hey, what's the culture like? Like, what are some of your, like, team's core beliefs, and which is an awesome question to ask, and it's a even better question to answer, because it's just, we're a gritty a bunch. There's, like they said, we don't have the nicest facilities, but we're gonna find a way to get better that day. We're gonna come together as a team. We're gonna be a family. Where everyone has each other's backs. There's, we're only as strong as our weakest guy, and we're gonna make sure that weakest guy is really, really strong. Yeah.
And I'd agree. We really are a family. Like, I can go to anyone on the team, any coach, and I know they'd have my back, or they could have an answer to my question. And if they don't, they'll find someone to help me out. And that's really like a gratifying feeling. Being away from home, you have a family away from home, and it's a huge family. And no matter where we go, we're always going to have each other's back and look out for one another.
Yeah, there's nothing stronger than when you feel supported and you feel part of an ohana, and you just know that other guys got your back, and that is just absolutely an intangible and such an important thing to capture when you want to have a successful program. Is that philosophy in it? I mean, do you feel, Dane, like this team just brought that, or do you, is the culture of the program has to be contributing to the creation of that culture and that feeling of support?
I think like 95% of it has to do with just the people that we recruit, and bringing guys in like Daniel and Vicente, who it's very intentional when we're in the recruiting process to make sure that they're gonna fit what we're looking for, and I think from there it's kind of, as coaching staff, we add in our 2 cents here and there, and they have a leadership group that Skyler Yamamoto has put together to create a curriculum to just enhance their leadership skills, and then from there it's all them. So I think it's mainly just the guys that we have. And
I'm a firm believer that you can have a really, really good team, and if the chemistry and culture isn't there, then they're not going to have as much success as a team who has that chemistry and who has that culture. So I think it's important that whether we're at the field or we're off the field, that we're going to try to hang out as much as possible. We're going to try to spend as much time with each other, get to know each other, be vulnerable with each other. I think that's all important with chemistry.
Yeah, absolutely. And and today, I mean, college sports are different. Back in the day, it was not easy to transfer, and you'd lose a year of eligibility oftentimes. And now, you don't like the culture of a program. See ya, I'm off to something else. And so, congrats, Dane, on creating that culture. And as we said, the success of the program is tangible. You can feel it. And the attitude of the players and the way they come together, you can just see it in everything that they do and say. All right, we are going to take our last break for today's show, and then we're going to come back. We'll learn a little bit more about what to look forward to in the coming week here at HPU. I'm your host, Jeff Rich. You're listening to Sharks Weekly. We'll be right back.
You're You're listening to Sharks Weekly on the Hawaii Sports Radio Networks, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
And we are back. And just a reminder, you can catch us every Thursday morning by dialing into either AM 760 or FM 95.1 at the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. And then catch our YouTube live broadcast streams and see what's happening in studio. But hey, this is the time in the show where we check back in a second time with Mr. Marcus DeWall and learn a little bit about what to expect in the coming week at HPU with our sports programs. Marcus, what's happening this coming week?
Yeah, so like I said, we have basketball doubleheader tonight, and then on Friday, well, tomorrow. Oh my gosh, yeah, this week's just time on this island when it's sunny every day. Time is just not a concept here, and so tomorrow we have our softball alumni game, and so they're gonna be over there, Kaneohe way, and just playing with fellow alumni, and then. So next week we have our baseball opening day, and I'm excited for this opening day because last year with the A's it was more so dreading the opening day. I'm like, all right, here comes like the marathon of pain. But when you have like a good roster like this, opening day is just exciting. You have so many weapons, and you get to see them in action. And then the same thing for softball. They're kicking off in Concordia at the Concordia Kickoff Classic, and as someone that worked that, oh my gosh, it was fun, but long days, just nonstop softball. But it's at a great complex in Irvine at the Great Park, and so it's be exciting to see them face off against some of the best softball teams in the West region, and so exciting new starts for a lot of people, and so
nice. Will be an exciting week ahead, and beautiful weather for all of our activities, outdoor games in particular. Guys, so we were talking at the break about gambling in sports and its impact on culture. Back years ago, clear separation. Gambling was illegal in most places, right? You had it in Las Vegas. You had maybe some Indian gaming casinos that had rights to have casinos up. But it seems like gambling has become pervasive in our culture. If you watch the NFL, for example, they're all the pregame shows, and they're all sponsored by the gambling companies. But you look at baseball as an example, and P. Rose. Banned for life from the game, banned from the Hall of Fame for gambling. Now, you could argue that his crime, even though you weren't supposed to gamble on anything at that point, was gambling on his own teams. But how does that impact things today? How it's hard for you to compare to days gone past when gambling was not so pervasive. But what's the mentality with players now when you can go place a wager on just about anything?
Yeah, I'll start off with just saying, I think the penalties are extreme, as it should be, because, we're here for the integrity of the game, and that's what's important. And I think it needs to be severe, when people, you'll see it every year, and it's national news, as it should be, because it's not good for the sport, it's not good for college athletics, right? And we're ultimately here for these guys to get an education and experience playing college baseball, and gambling in it, there's no room for that. So I think like you said, it's a lot more popular in professional sports, obviously.
Yeah.
But college sports, I'm happy to say that at least in our arena, it hasn't been any issue.
And Daniel, you were telling me that college athletes now have to come in and sign an oath to not gamble, and that's an official requirement now for eligibility.
Yeah. So they the NCAA makes sure that the athletes are not participating in any sports betting, one for the integrity of the game, but two, kind of for their own sake. You don't want 18 to 22-year-olds spending money on sports gambling, losing a lot of money. Whether you're winning or not, I think the story goes is that you're always down,
Yeah.
So NCAA makes us sign an oath to not sports gamble or gamble in general. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's a bad thing. I just, as you get older, you have the advantage of longevity of perspective, and people my age, you can look back and know compare it to a time when, gambling was literally illegal. And now, and you look at how analytics have come into every sport, and all the stats that get called out instantly that we never had access to before, football, baseball, obviously statistics-driven games. And, the wagering opportunities are almost limitless as these companies develop lines on anything and everything. Mm-hmm. And I'd have to believe that that's going to have a negative impact on a lot of aspects of our culture and society, and not a good thing for sports.
Yeah, well, I think it's a little, I don't know if funny is the right word, but you have, let's take professional athletes. They already have the pressure of playing the sport, and the pressure of winning and losing, performing good and performing bad. But now you put on the pressure of people are rooting for them to either do bad because they have money on them, or rooting for them to do good because they have money on them. So if they don't perform, then they're getting scrutinized because they lost money because of that person, or vice versa, that they're getting praised because they made that person money. So it's like a extra layer of pressure, which I think is funny, but not the good kind of funny.
And also too, I'd have to believe that the opportunities to game the system are just limitless. If you can bet on literally everything, mm-hmm. right? Okay, so a player's not going to bet themselves, but what's to keep a family member from placing a big wager and then missing a shot, or doing something that gets you that line? That just seems too easy to do.
So I hate to jump in and totally derail the conversation, but Jeff, you've triggered my ADHD and deep inside me, and you mentioned analytics and how they've really, really gone into baseball. And before we get out of here today, I know that that's something that Coach Dane uses. And I was curious, player-wise, are there specific numbers that you guys are looking at that you look at more than others when it comes to your performance on the field, whether that be, you hear the exit velocity and the launch angles and whatnot, but what are some of the numbers and categories you guys look at when you're trying to improve?
So I liked to consider myself a traditionalist when it comes to baseball, and I hated numbers just because my numbers weren't that great when it came to exit velo or
they were
bat
good
speed.
last year.
And so I tried to not pay attention. And then Richie Higa, he became our hitting coach, and me and him had a lot of conversation about what we needed to improve, and the two things were my exit velo and my bat speed. And I was like, yeah, but I hit 315 or 320, whatever it was. I was like, why would I? He was like, yeah, but you don't think you have room to grow? And I was like, all right, good point. And so this whole fall we worked on it, and I set a personal record for both exit velo and bat speed. And I'd like to hear Dane talk more about analytics too, because I know that it's one thing that he loves. But yeah.
Sante?
From the pitching side, for me, I'll take all information. I love gathering intel on opposing hitters, just seeing where they hit the ball, what are their strengths, what do they not hit well. Just knowing all those little things is very helpful to keep in mind, especially for me, I'm a reliever, so I would come into a situation, and for most people, the game kind of speeds up, but I think being well prepared with who you're facing slows it down. Especially just in the back of your head, I was like, okay, this is what he struggles with. If I get ahead, this is what we can attack him with. Or if I'm behind, look, remember, he's susceptible to balls low in the zone. Okay, if we just pound the bottom of the zone, I'll probably get him out. So just being prepared is good to know.
Yeah. It's hard to argue the impact that all of these new technologies and the analytics that are available for coaching, for players to assess what's happening, and its impact is just, I think, indisputable. It'll be interesting to see how players do adapt to that new intelligence and how things continue to progress. But my final statement on the topic of sports gambling is I can't see how it is a good thing ultimately for our culture and our society to make it such a core part of sports. You look at things that have deemed harmful to individuals, bans on advertising smoking to youth and all. And I think it's something we probably need to take a look at and say, okay, this has to have some reins on it and some parameters. So, but a conversation for another day. I want to thank our amazing in-studio guests. I wish you guys the best of luck as you head into the season opener.
Thank you.
And we'll hopefully have you back and talk about another successful season as you round it out. Marcus, Paul, as always, great job. Thanks. We will be back next week with another episode of Sharks Weekly. I'm your host, Jeff Rich. Aloha.